been putting so much into it, and I'm rooting for them in so many ways. Let's go ahead and head around in the final segments of the show. Let's look around the NFL and just talk some of the more general news out there. And sometimes it's always fun when you see the links back to the Carolina Panthers. I laughed at this one a little bit. At Marcus Harvey on Twitter says Baker Mayfield is not only going to get 3 head coaches fired, Odell Beckham, OBJ cut, and Christian McCaffrey traded. He's going to retire Sean McVay, Hall of Fame resume and destroyer of careers. Baker Mayfield,
Hilarious.
I guess had the struggles you would expect in this last game. And that's why I told you guys, don't be talking junk about Ben McAdoo. You should have been talking junk about the Raiders defense in that game when it comes to Baker's success and failures. Baker, he looks broken, man.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like, you know what, his best days are behind him. That's what I would say.
And like, if we're looking at it, he was never a high upside quarterback. Even when he came out of Oklahoma, he came out of a spread offense. They designed a lot of receivers open. He's not very mobile. He's not as good as an athlete as he thought he was. He's not going to outrace defensive ends to the edge. Just, he's not that dude, man. He was drafted number 1 overall. And that's why typically, if you're going to draft a quarterback number 1 overall, they need to be a talent, trait, upside type of player. And
Michael, no worries. No, Sean McVay is not retiring. In fact, we can go ahead and neither is I got it up here. Matthew Stafford. What the tweeter was just saying, and this is for someone looks like you're a Seahawks fan, and that is this is just a Carolina Panthers fan probably talking about how epic of a season Baker Mayfield has had or career. He's the career destroyer. He is the destroyer of worlds in ways, and to the fact that all of these other things that he's destroyed, and then now it's so bad at this point. The Rams are having their struggles. Like, it's not ridiculous to think that Aaron Donald and Sean McVay could just say, you know what, we retire.
So I watched that game, and one of the things, and I'll talk about something about that game that's pretty cool, but I watched that game, and Troy and Buck were just sucking Baker's member, right? Oh, he's slinging it. He came in here. I'm a real big fan of Baker Mayfield. If he was on the Carolina Panthers, they'd be talking shit about him the entire game. He came in there and he looked exactly the way that he looked here. Everybody last week, they took that one game and they were like, oh my God, he's just an incredible. He went against the Oakland Raiders and it wasn't even like he played that well.
And he almost threw 2 pick sixes in that final drive. One of them was taken away and one was a near miss.
So, I mean, and that's not to take away. That was a beautiful pass that he made. But everybody was crowning him as being like the savior of the Rams. It was just this big PR thing. And I was waiting for people to realize that he's still the same Baker. Nothing has changed. His circumstances have changed. He's got a different coach, and it's clear that his coach can't even get him in a position to be able to succeed. One of the most offensive geniuses the biggest offensive geniuses out there, according to everybody, and he's still not able to do anything with Baker. Baker looked pedestrian. Baker was a big reason why they lost that game. He was doing all the same things, holding on to the ball too long, making the short read instead of seeing a wide open guy down the field over here on the right side. He was doing just horrendous things. And it was just, I don't want to wish that illness on anybody of being a bad football player, but you almost wanted to when he asked to be released, because it was an indictment on us if he went over there and succeeded. More so than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think it just reminds us that win last week against Oakland was a nothing burger, and that people way overread into the significance of the Rams making a fourth quarter comeback against a terrible, terrible Oakland Raiders defense.
Right.
And Panther fans wanted to try to learn. They wanted some sort of, I guess, assurance that it wasn't us, right? Like, is that by Baker going out and doing that in the fourth quarter Panther fans started to question Ben McAdoo and these different things. And I just told you guys, don't worry. Don't worry. This was nothing. They only put up 3 points the whole damn game and just had two drives and more about a defensive collapse. And this game against this week only shows it more. I just see him running around scrambling out there, and I go, not it. But tell you somebody who got it. How about this? Jalen Hurts actually hurt his shoulder in that Chicago game, sprained shoulder. They are trying to practice them, and it's under the assumption right now that he can play, but there is a chance that he won't play. And, man, if he doesn't, Gardner Minshew, my man, Minshew Magic, could be starting against the Dallas Cowboys, and he would get a new weapon back from IR. Look, the Eagles have been soaring this year. They've been incredible. Dallas Goedert was a big part of their success early on, but had to go to IR. Really, frankly, ruined one of my fantasy football teams, or at least made it a lot harder for me in the middle of a pack team try to pull ahead. Instead, I fell behind because of injury and buys and different things. Dallas Goedert coming back. Jalen Hurts, man, you'd hate to see him actually hurt, but boy, Gardner Minshew, Carolina Panthers 2023 starting quarterback, has an opportunity to beat the Cowboys and show you why he might be one of the free agents out there people are going to like. Is this news, guys? More about Jalen Hurts, probably.
No, this is more about you having a huge man crush on Gardner Minshew, I think. But hey, it's okay. You're allowed to pull for Gardner Minshew, dude. That's your guy. And no, he's not terrible, man. Like, listen, I think if you're the Eagles, there probably, save for Nick Foles, right? There probably isn't another backup that you would want to have behind your quarterback. Like, the dude's a baller. He can throw the ball. He can spin the ball. He can do all the things that you want him to do. So, this is a good opportunity for you to pull for your man, Tony. I think he'll be able to pull it off.
How do you not like this guy? Look, Gardner Minshew.
I never said I didn't.
This past off season, I'm asking the world, how can you not like this guy? Gardner Minshew lived in an old prison bus this offseason. Talk about trying to toughen up as a player. Lived in this bus parked outside his trainer's gym in Florida, and even the Eagles allowed him to relocate to NovaCare during spring workouts. Imagine how badass you are when you drive your prison bus up to training camp. Minshew eventually moved, but the bus is still there. He said, I need to sell that thing. What a story.
Can I ask one question about this? With we did mention the bigger story here is probably Jalen Hurts being out. How does this hurt Jalen Hurts' MVP chances? If he's out 2 games, hurts it. If he's out 2 games, can he still win MVP when he's not number one in any category?
Is availability not one of the biggest aspects?
I think it is.
An MVP player.
I think it is. Even if it's only 2 games, you're still number one in any category.
The argument you could have for him is anybody else doing what he's doing as well in all the categories, right? That's the argument I think that people are going to have as an MVP, right? Because it is considered a quarterback, a quarterback driven award, but the reality is his entire performance that they've got to look at. And so if you look at Cam Newton's MVP season, he wasn't the best passer as far as like some of those stats, but it was his body of work as a rusher, his body of work as a leader on the offense. It was just there were too many things that he was better than average at, that made it to where it was like nobody else had that same level of consistency across the board.
See, this is why I can't marry you, CK. Like this right here, this reason.
Well, but hold on. Before we go crown CK, I will say though that yes, that is true. But Cam Newton didn't miss a game.
Sure.
And to that point, if Jalen Hurts does miss games, and you have Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen continuing to play well, and more importantly, let's say Gardner Minshew comes in and manages to beat the Dallas Cowboys, in the place of Jalen
That
Hurts,
would probably
I think
hurt
that
Jalen Hurts'
right. That's
MVP
what I'm
campaign.
saying. I think that would hurt
Yeah,
Jalen Hurts'
I
shot
agree.
at that
I agree.
MVP.
If Hurts though missed one game and then came back and played well after that, I think he could overcome missing time. I think more than one game starts to leave your team out there, and then you have to ask those questions about did they win because of me, in spite of me, and these different things that you just don't have those questions on a guy that's played every game. And if it is a quarterback driven award, he's already fighting an uphill battle in some ways when other guys are just doing it in so much more prolific ways through the air. So
Have you
what
ever
would be
seen
the argument you have when you look at Lamar Jackson and Cam Newton? Like, they didn't do it prolifically through the air compared to many of the other quarterbacks in the league.
he had that many touchdowns as they did at
Yes.
this point.
He's
Like,
in
I would say
line.
Lamar's year was clear. Like, he threw and ran for like so many. If he's having that,
And Cam had 35 passing touchdowns.
yeah,
How many passing touchdowns does Jalen have, Greg?
22.
22. How many
21.
rushing?
13.
Okay. And so Cam had 10
Does
that
he
year.
really have 13?
Yeah,
Damn,
he's
that's
13.
insane.
Yeah.
So Cam had 10 that year. What is his interception?
He has 4 or 5. I can't remember. He's low in interceptions.
Well, I mean, Cam had 5 that year, I think, right?
Yeah, and
He
I
was
think
35.
Yeah,
No, he was
remember they have
35 and
one
10
more.
or
They're
something
going to
like
have
that.
one more game at the end of the year. So I would say this is, I think Cam, you have to have a season that where the yardage and the touchdowns and all of that is equivalent to at least Cam's number.
Right.
Regardless,
I agree with
of
that.
how
He's in
many
line to
runs.
hit Cam's
He's
numbers.
yeah, he's on
he's
pace.
basically in line to
He's
hit
on
Cam's
pace.
numbers almost exactly.
Well,
Record-
he's
I don't
hit
know- I
Cam's
don't know if
numbers,
it- I
but
don't- I don't-
exceed the rushing numbers.
Well,
exceed rushing
I don't.
touchdowns.
I will say I don't think he's going to pass the passing touchdowns.
He might not.
22. Yeah, I don't think he'll
Especially
get
if he misses
35.
time.
That's 4 in the next
Yeah.
3 games. 4
Yeah.
passing, and he's not even playing the next 2. So yeah, he won't pass that.
But we don't know for sure he's not playing the next 2, do we?
At least the next one.
No, like that's why I think he only can afford to miss one game. And
I don't.
have a
They're saying that he might
16-game
play
season.
this game against.
Yeah,
the
I know.
Cowboys.
There's
Jalen
no.
says that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He is right now. All systems go.
Yeah.
That's
Remember
what it
Josh
sounds like.
Allen
And-
earlier in the year? Josh Allen hurt his elbow, and he was kind of will he won't he play,
Right.
and then ultimately he did. Jalen Hurts is probably going to do the same thing.
Sure, and that's his throwing shoulder too. I know that Josh Allen's was his throwing elbow, but I'm concerned about that being his shoulder.
Shoulder,
Moving forward, honestly.
yeah.
Speaking
I hear you.
speaking of Lamar Jackson, that type of quarterback, and some of the things we've talked about on this show a lot. Right now, Raven fans are all over Greg Roman as offensive coordinator for the Ravens, calling for him to be fired. John Harbaugh shows support for his entire coaching staff late in the season. But right now, Lamar Jackson has had a little bit of injury, missed 2 games so far. The Ravens offense wasn't great with him at the helm by any means. Hasn't been good missing him either. And now the allure of that famed MVP season, not only for Lamar, falls a little bit more in the distant past, but more importantly for Greg Roman, his stock definitely falling right now, and making it more and more sound absurd that I have been lobbying for him and Lamar to come here for the Panthers in a way. So that was a news bit that stuck out to me.
That's
I
interesting.
mean-
That's
Greg
also
Roman's stock is falling. Actually,
But
we need to start wondering how much is Lamar Jackson's in a way, because a guy who's bet on himself in his final year. Not that I think anybody's questioning his ability, but again, the question marks of availability, and you always get paid the most when you're there and you're balling out, and he's not there and balling out right now.
Yeah.
True, but I will say, even going back to our performance, when Lamar Jackson was in the game, it was a very close game. Like,
Right.
you could argue that if we had PJ Walker or Sam Darnold at quarterback in that game, maybe we would have won it. Like, it was a close game, And this is one of the things that I've said to Tony a lot. It's why I'm not a big time fan of Greg Roman like Tony is. And it's just because I feel like his offense is dependent upon a lot of important things. Number one, it's a mobile running quarterback that you're going to do a lot of design quarterback runs with and quarterback draws. And I just feel like you can do that for a little while. But if you don't have the right type of offense to do that, dude, if one of those pieces gets hurt, now the entire thing comes crumbling down.
All right. I think the Ravens are a very deceiving team this year too, because they won a few games. Like I think they've blown the most 14 or double-digit point leads in the league this year. Like almost all their losses are front, they've had double-digit point leads. Like they get to a point where it's like they play super powerful offense in the first half and get a huge lead, and then they just turn it off. And everybody's like, well, the defense needs to hold. That's great, but the offense can still score. They still have opportunity to score, and they don't. Like they don't continue to do that. They just shut it off after they get a lead.
Just so Lamar dependent, man.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of a Panthers team with Cam Newton. It's just like either Lamar balls and you're great, or you just struggle to be pretty good.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Also, I saw this wild stuff happen in the NFL this week. This one is Rasul Douglas was the latest, made the latest blunder on this, guys. Rasul Douglas, former Carolina Panther, played well at a corner, would be probably a lot better than CJ. Actually, I won't say probably, he would be better than us having CJ Henderson. JC Horn and Rasul Douglas would be nice in action together, right? And I think that would be a decent combo. Douglas moved on to Green Bay and has had a nice amount of success there, but in a crazy pick bringing up on Baker Mayfield, Rasul Douglas running the ball down the field decides to underhand lateral it at the last second. And it turned into a zany play, but it was a loss of yardage. Green Bay recovered the ball and would go on to win the game. But he's asked about it. He said, as I was going down, I underhanded it, and then I seen it hit the ground, and I was like, damn, this is about to be like the Raiders and Patriots. And he said his teammates were joking on, like, what the hell are you on? Like, are you drunk? Are you on drugs at this point? What the hell are you doing? This story to me just was funny, more funny because of what happened with the Patriots and the Raiders, guys. This final play where this running back, I guess, takes the ball back. He was from NC State, I think. Or no, the one that threw it was from NC State. So, Wolfpack fans. Did you guys see that Raiders play? The Raiders win?
Dude, I was. And it was so, it's part of my ice up, by the way. So
I think I tried to diagnose it, and I think I got it figured out, especially for the Raiders game or for the Patriots. I think that I think asking Belichick have you seen like when they've asked him, like, did you remind this? Did you coach them? Have you coached them on this moment? He's like, yeah. You talking about it. Yeah. Shouldn't let it go.
No,
but,
I didn't.
But the thing is that to me, this is one of those plays, like, it's kind of absurd that you at this level really need to coach not to do that.
Is that
right?
coaching
And
or is that
is that like at this point? So I understand you need to be coaching situational moments. I don't know that this is such an indictment on the coaches to say, hey, don't kneel the ball if we're trying to win, or don't, like, this is like, duh, don't do this, right? Where the score is tied, you're not losing. We don't have to win on this play. We got to try to win or get to overtime. I mean, I guess you should have that conversation. I think this was mob mentality, dude. I think that one guy pitched the ball and everybody just said, oh, we're doing this? Let's go. Like, you just lose your senses for a moment. Yep. And this is a mob mentality. That first guy pitched it, then the next guy pitched it, and everybody's like, well, this is what we're doing. And then it turned into epic disaster.
I think you're 100% right on that, Tony. That's exactly what it was.
It certainly wasn't designed.
Yeah.
And if it is, Matt Patricia and Joe Judge need to be executed. It's certainly not designed. Rasul Douglas. Yeah. Crazy. I thought this was wild too, as we're talking about the Eagles and trying to get those. What does he got to get? 13 more touchdowns. You're talking about Jalen Hurts, not enough. Not, only 22 passing touchdowns, having an incredible year. Should he be MVP? Wild's one of his better receivers, the number one receiver last season, and now they got who they got? AJ Brown now, who is just balling out in the last couple of games. Deontay Johnson is on pace to have the least efficient touchdown season in the history of professional football. As of week 16, he's the first player ever to record over 109 targets without having a single touchdown. He's had 123 targets this season with no touchdowns. He said, DJ Moore, hold my beer. I know DJ Moore's had his most voluminous or prolific touchdown season, but he's been a guy that's had a ton of catches, a ton of yards, and not a lot of touchdowns. This is an incredible stat.
It does sound like a stat that DJ Moore almost could have had. I mean, you feel it's like you feel bad for him, man. Dude, you realize that receivers, they are completely dependent on the quarterbacks that get them the football and the type of offense that they're in. So if you don't have that big time passing attack, you're gonna run the football, and so you're not throwing it.
But he's getting targets. They're throwing it.
I was gonna say 109 targets and he hadn't caught a touchdown. That's got to be somewhat his fault too.
It's just,
I mean, that's got to be. You got some blame's got to go on him.
Bad luck. It's just like the game has just single-handedly not been in your favor. Every time it's been touchdown time, it's been Jalen Hurts and Brown, and you're like, I'm over here just eating up yards. I wonder how many yards he has. So anyway,
I don't know, but hey, I did want to mention real quick, our boy Al the Sailor checking in from the Suez Canal. Hey, it's about to be his 38th birthday, man. So this is a big C3 happy birthday to our man Algernon out there on the waters. Appreciate you, brother, and very happy birthday to you, man.
Yeah, good morning, and good 38th year around the sun.
Right there. Yeah.
Good stuff.
34 times around the sun and many more to you. All right, that's my segment so far. That's around the news. That's what was sticking out to me and interesting. We now have to rock with the longest running